I lost my timekeeper. She was here. She bought y'all extra time and then she disappeared on me. We're just gonna stare at her when she gets back. There she goes. Stare. Let me know when I can start. You good? All right, cool. Thank you, timekeeper. Does anybody have any questions about their local representatives? No, you know everything there is to know about it. Oh.
Of your community board?
Of the community board?
There's an application online
Yes!
that I'm filling out right now.
Yes! I love it. So that's an excellent question. So to be a part of the community board, there are two types of membership. There is appointed, there is full board membership, and then there is public membership. I almost forgot. So a full board appointee is someone who is appointed by the borough president of your county by recommendation of the city council representative. So what does that mean? That means you have to do some internal lobbying, right? And plead your case. I would suggest give a call to your local council member and say, I want to be appointed to the community board. How many vacant seats do you have? And then you reach out to your borough president and you say the same thing, whether it be by phone call, whether you show up. These are offices, you can just show up. These are open to the public, they are there for you. It is their job to serve you. Do not feel as though you are so privileged that they will answer your phone call. There are literally entire protocols behind this. If you make a phone call to an elected official's office, they are by law obliged to respond. If you were to email them, there is a time frame in which they have to respond. If you mail them a letter, oh boy, they really have to get back to you by law. And so do not feel as though you are pestering or bothering or annoying any of these people. It is their job to inform you, answer any questions you may have about the process. So, the simple way is to go ahead online on the borough president's website, download the application. Is due soon, right? Like February? February. And basically you're going to answer a few questions. What are two committees that you want to be a part of? You're going to look through the website and see what committees are available. Committees are usually based on the needs of your district. Most committees, community boards have an education committee, right? Because everybody has school. Have a business development, has a housing, open, parks and recreation, all that good stuff. Land use. So you would essentially make a case for which committees you would want to be a part of. If you are appointed by the borough president or the city council member, you will then be eligible to serve up to 4 two-year terms. Before there weren't any term limits. 2 years ago, the charter changed, or the law changed, and there are now term limits, although 8 years is the last time. We encourage folks to apply because we need new blood in these community boards. A lot of these people have been there for ages and literally just keeping the seat long. What do community boards want? They want folks who are going to get along with the body. People don't like drama, they don't like controversy. Borough presidents, council members don't want to be settling disputes. So that's one thing, right? Yes, you want to show that you can lead, but more importantly, you want to show your diplomacy skills. After you fill out an application, each borough president is going to have their own vetting process. Usually they call you in for a group info session. They're going to seat you probably like this and tell you about what your roles and responsibilities are. You don't know it, but it's an interview. People are observing you. There are auditors in the room who are scoring you just based on how you interact with other people. They're trying to see if you're a good fit for the board. Your application is going to be scored based on your interest, based on how long you've lived in the neighborhood, or what is your area of expertise. Do not say I want to join the community board and have never attended a community board. That is an automatic, do not waste anybody's time. So the first thing that you want to do if you're going to apply is make sure that you have attended at least one full board meeting. Now, the difference between a full board member and an appointed member. A full board member is part of the 50. They get to vote on the full board and also get to vote at the committee level. An appointed member is someone who is appointed just to one committee. They can vote on that committee, but they can't vote as part of the full board. Questions? Yes?
How much is the town hall meeting? Well, if you attended one of those, is that like a plus when you're,
The application. It depends on what the issue was. If the town hall was informative in such a way that you are able to speak eloquently, right, about a particular issue, then yes. But to say that I attended, everybody goes to town halls all the time. So it doesn't necessarily mean that you're more involved than the next person. They want to know that you know about these issues. Most of these applications will ask you a few things. They will ask you, what are some of the most pressing issues in your community? It says so on your statement of district needs. So it's one of those things like, oh, you've been trying, right? Like they're giving you the answer. Did you even read? Don't guess. Some folks are looking for creativity. What are some issues that they want to surface and want to highlight? And also, when you highlight these issues, you also want to say what you would do differently or what you want to do about it. So don't just complain that the sidewalks are dirty. Literally read back and see what has been done and see how you can build on this. All of that information is going to be in your statement of district needs. Your community board website will have meeting minutes based on previous meetings that have taken place at the committee level. So if you, huh? You don't need to write a proposal, but you want to make an informed statement. If you say that you care about education, if you say that you care about integration, school integration, New York City schools are the most segregated schools in the country, right? And that's a reality that we live in. If you say, I want to work on issues of integration, or I care about the education system, and you know that your district has been fighting to integrate schools for however many years, then use the information that you already have to build on your argument. But don't just say, I want nicer schools.
Right now, I'm volunteer for teaching and
Uh-huh. Okay. Okay, awesome.
So I will about okay, how to hire
Yeah. Yeah. So that's great. So you already have an affiliation with another organization. That is something that you absolutely want to highlight because you're drawing from that expertise. So community boards want to know that you're affiliated with multiple groups, any association that you could pull up, whether it be Hostos Leadership Academy or neighborhood association or building board or whatever. You want to jot that down so that they know that the folks who are coming in are also representatives of different bodies, right? They want a large community. Question? So fill out your applications on time. Reach out to your council member. Reach out to your borough president. See the interview dates when they are, and research your statement of district needs so that you can speak in an educated way about the issues that are pertinent in your community. And if any of you are thinking about filling out an application, feel free to reach out to me. Like I reviewed these for too long, and we can discuss how to give you all an edge. Legislative process. Anybody tell me what the legislative process is? What does it entail? Legislative process is how bills, yes? How we make laws, right? So regardless of whether you say I don't like politics or not involved, politics are everywhere, right? And so this is the part that you want to know the most about. These are the things that affect you on your day-to-day. These are the rules that we have to adhere to that shape our daily experience. This is the legislative process. A bill is introduced, a public hearing takes place, people vote on it, the mayor makes a decision, the bill becomes law. Now that seems overly simplified. What am I missing? Who introduces a bill? What is a bill? Yeah, so a bill is pretty much a wannabe law, right? It's like, I'm trying to be a law, right? But I'm still in draft form. Who introduces the bill? public advocate can introduce a bill, right? Okay. Who else? City council, right? A borough president can introduce a bill in partnership with a city council or representative, right? They can't do it on their own, they can't propose laws. The community board can advocate on behalf of a bill, but then what happens is they can't own it. They need to find a champion. So a city council member will then have to own this bill. So you will find local organizations, grassroots, and the like, who will draft bills and proposals, because all policy comes from the ground up, or most policy, in good government. They will draft these proposals, but then they need a champion. That's why you see people lobbying, because they want to know who is going to support this bill, right? Then a public hearing is held by the city council. This is where you all come in. A public hearing is meant to receive input from community members, from constituents, from other government agencies, from stakeholders. Anybody who is affected by a proposed bill is welcome to speak their mind on this thing. And what happens is that usually a bill needs to change. Because if I tell you I want the school day to start at 6 a.m. and I want it to end at 8 p.m., but I ain't got no kids, right? Then mama shows up, hold on, right? Chances are there will be some changes if I actually want this to pass. Then voting takes place. Voting takes place by the city council. A simple majority, or more than half, need to agree that this is a good thing, that we like it like that, and we are going to take it to the mayor. The mayor's going to look at this thing and he's going to say this is whack, veto, because he has veto power. He can shut the whole thing down, right? Or he can say this is dope, I'm gonna rock with y'all, right? If he says nah, we're going to cut this off, it goes back to the city council. Now the city council has to think back and they're like, all right, we can override the mayor's veto, but this time with a 2/3 majority. So before, where a simple majority can get the bill introduced to the mayor, a 2/3 majority is required to override the mayor's decision. Now that may seem simple, but the reality is that there's some internal politics that take place, right? Because some people don't want to piss off the mayor. Right? And so it may be hard to get those additional votes in favor of a potential bill. Now, if the mayor goes ahead and is overridden, or if he simply says, nah, this is dope, he goes ahead and it becomes law and it becomes part of the charter. Now, that can be a very long process, right, if it's shut down and sent back. So usually there's ample time and space and communication amongst the different bodies to ensure that it gets passed, right? They don't wait until it's sent over, or sometimes they do, right? They don't want to wait until it gets into the mayor's hands to start making revisions. Yes?
What is the mindset of the mayor to take a decision? What is the factor?
It depends on the issue, right? So the idea is that these are all folks who are representatives of our city. And so the idea is that we are all aligned, in theory, on what the priorities are and what is important to our city. Now, let's talk about affordable housing, right? The mayor's not necessarily in line with certain, with other representatives. You gotta turn that camera off. It can be fired. So for example, there was a proposal that stated, why don't we use public land to develop affordable housing? If we are using public land to build shelters and the like, why don't we just use it for the purpose of creating permanent housing if the goal is to reduce homelessness anyway? We got the money, we got the land, we got the building, we got a whole bunch of vacant lots. Mayor shut that down real quick at Gracie Mansion. My feelings were hurt. Because the mayor had a different agenda. The mayor believes in affordable housing by other means. And so that is just one example. And to clarify, right, the mayor believed in mandatory inclusionary housing. He believed in asking for developers to be the ones to create affordable housing. But then the argument became affordable for who? Because simply because it's not market rate does not mean that it's affordable housing. $3,000 one-bedroom apartment in Grand Concourse is not affordable housing, just because the mayor says it's affordable housing, right? Yeah. So sometimes the mayor may have pet projects. Sometimes the mayor just has different feelings about how things should operate. Sometimes he has certain partnerships or negotiations underway that contradict that of the city council, or that may contradict, or that may be in conflict with that of the community. And that's where a lot of lobbying and politicking and advocacy takes place. That's where you really need the pressure from the community to help push this legislation, to help convince people to do the things that you want them to do. You had a question in the back? Yeah. This is another breakdown because I thought I was going to remember all those things, so I put it down in red. So this is a recap. The bill is introduced, right? The council works with the legislation division to present the bill at stated meetings. The bill is assigned appropriate committee. So depending on the type of bill, it's assigned to a particular committee. That makes sense. If it's an education bill, it's assigned to the education committee. If it's a housing bill, it's assigned to the housing committee. The committee holds a public hearing to gather input from the community or other government entities and stakeholders. And in this committee, at this hearing, everyone is welcome to attend. The bill may change based on what they've heard. They're going to adapt the bill. Step number 3 is voting. The committee votes on a bill. If the bill passes by majority vote, then it goes to the council. Then if the council votes, if the full council votes, then it goes, then it passes, and then it goes to the mayor. The passed bill is presented to the mayor. The mayor has 30 days to sign it. So that means he makes it into a law, veto it, or do nothing. If the mayor vetoes, it goes back to the council. Council can override with 2/3 majority vote. And step number 5, once the bill is signed by the mayor or veto has been overridden by the council, it is then added to the New York City Charter or administrative code. If there is anything more you want to know about the legislative process or the budget process, you have a man by the name of Joshua Rivera up in the executive offices, works in this building. He doesn't know I'm shouting him out, but he was one of the top dudes, top hats at the city council years ago, one of my mentors, and now you are fortunate to have him as your director of government affairs here on campus. And he doesn't know volunteering anymore. That is the legislative process, and that is a pretty picture that I stole from the internet. That is essentially a map, right? Goes to the council member, drafts it into bill, and goes to committee, goes to the slated meeting, goes to the mayor. If he vetoes, goes back, so on and so forth. If it's approved, it is implemented by the different agencies, depending on the type of bill or law that it is. Any questions about how a bill is? Yes.
I mean, how the New York City government and the order, how do you explain the separation of the powers? We got a state representative,
Right. So we're
I don't know.
so we're not talking about state. We're not talking about state level. We're just talking about city level. That's part 2. That's advanced placement. Yeah, we're talking about local government. But essentially, they abide by the same procedures and protocol, just different participants. But it's the same process. We're gonna go ahead. Go back. Do we have audio? The budget process. So we talked about the $92 billion. You kind of want to know how it's spent, where it goes, and who decides where that money goes, because it comes out of your paycheck. So you kind of want to know who it is. Go ahead. And play. That is a video of the mayor and Melissa Martinelli, who was the former speaker of the city council. Yeah, it's a video. It's YouTube.
It's budget season. Do you know how the New York City budget works? Let's begin. In September, the mayor submits his capital commitment plan. Then, in November, the comptroller issues reports on previous year's budget. At the same time, the mayor releases his financial plan. And then, in January, he releases his preliminary budget. At that time, in March, the City Council submits its own operating budget of the Council. Then, from March to April, the City Council holds public hearings on and respond to the preliminary budget. In April, the Mayor issues his executive budget and his message. In May, we hold City Council hearings on the executive budget itself. Finally, in June, we get the handshake, which means the budget is adopted and the tax rates are set for the next fiscal year. Do you still have any questions? Visit us at council.nyc.gov/NYC-budget16 or tweet us at NYCC-Council, and as always, you can also visit our Facebook.
You guys got it? You gonna play it again?
Yeah.
All right, let's play it one more time, then we'll go over it.
It's budget season. Do you know how the New York City budget works? Let's begin. In September, the mayor submits his capital commitment plan. Then, in November, the comptroller issues report on previous year's budget. At the same time, the mayor releases his financial plan, and then in January, he releases his preliminary budget. At that time, in March, the City Council submits its own operating budget of the Council. Then, from March to April, the City Council holds public hearings on and respond to the preliminary budget. In April, the Mayor issues his executive budget and his message. In May, we hold City Council hearings on the executive budget itself. Finally, in June, we get the handshake, which means the budget is adopted and the tax rates are set for the next fiscal year. Do you still have any questions? Visit us at council.nyc.gov/NYC-budget16 or tweet us at NYCC-Council, and as always, you can also visit our Facebook.
All right.
So we broke it down into 5 steps. The first step, as you mentioned, starts each January. The mayor presents a preliminary budget. That means this is a draft. We don't see how this works out. This is what I think y'all should be doing. And this is the same date every year, by the way. There's a fiscal calendar. An outline of his priorities and goals for the city. Mayor's saying, this is what I think y'all should rock with, based on my bird's eye view and some advice that I've taken from the city council and local elected officials and community members. And the council then follows the process to ensure the budget meets the needs of a diverse neighborhood. So the council's gonna be like, this is cool, let me see if this even makes sense. Because you over here talking about $3 for education and my school have no books and no electricity and no internet. You're playing yourself, Mr. Mayor, we need to reshuffle this, right? And the mayor, again, is proposing a budget for the city. So it is up to the different council members to negotiate amongst themselves to see how this money is divvied up and allocated properly. The budget always has to be balanced. What does that mean? It always has to be zero. So whatever money is received, it is money, these are services that need to be rendered. That means they need to spend every single dollar that they get. Because if they don't spend it, that's monies that they will not receive the following year. Yes, that's why they start funding projects and coming up with creative ways of finding the money. So right. So here's the thing, right? If you want to advocate for a particular program, if you feel like, you know what, we need some money for CUNY, you don't want to wait until January to propose it. You want to wait. You want to propose this early on so that it becomes part of the draft, right? You don't want to wait till the last minute, because once a budget is already created, there's no time or space to advocate for the things that you care about, whether it be at a local level, or if you're running a nonprofit or what have you, because some of these council members do have discretionary funds. Step 2, council analysis and hearing. From March to April, the council analyzes the mayor's preliminary budget and holds a series of public hearings to identify specific concerns through conversations with residents, advocates, and city agencies. That's y'all. You should be all up in these people's faces. This is your money that they're spending, and they're asking you how they should spend it. And they're going to spend it with or without your input, because the show must go on. It is their job. And also bear in mind that they have additional responsibilities. They are elected officials that they have to take on during this process. So these are people who are working round the clock. You're not sleeping, right? So the last thing they want is for last minute changes. So do attend those hearings. Formal response. That's step number 3. Based on our analysis, the council formally responds to the mayor's preliminary budget. This includes a summary of concerns expressed during the hearings and recommendations to address those concerns. So the mayor said, here's what I want you to do with this amount of money. The council says, hold on, let's talk to our people first. Y'all, they come back, they say, hey, this is what I think is actually possible based on that wild number that you gave us, and this is what our people actually need. Let's shuffle things around a bit. Step 4, executive budget and hearings. In April, the mayor releases the executive budget, which is an updated proposed budget based on the council's response. So this is a response to the response. Again, the council analyzes this budget and conducts a second round of targeted hearings, ensuring that the budget reflects the priorities of the council's 51 districts. So this is another opportunity for you to see if they got it right. Number 5, step number 5, adopted budget. Through May and June, the council and the mayor negotiate adjustments to the executive budget, resulting in an agreement known as the adopted budget. This agreement must be reached for before July 1st, the beginning of the next fiscal year. Once that takes place, you see these dudes drink a lot and they go on vacation. It's been a lot of work, and again, you can talk to Joshua about that. Oh man, this was supposed to be a beautiful slide to show you how the legislative session and the budget season overlaps. This is the calendar in theory. You guys can make it out. You can kind of see the months, right?
So the budget season is over the first 6 months.
So it's from January, no, it's from January to July. It says June, but yeah, July 1st. I don't know. That is the process. Jason, would you know why it's only 6 months? Do you want the budget to go on longer? Budget planning is only 6 months, yeah.
It's the complexity of how the budget works and where the funds come from. It probably has something to do with the federal allocation to the cities. And so part of what the budget process would be is that money comes through the federal government back to the cities. That can be part of the budget as well. I don't know the exact details of that.
You said it goes to the federal government and then back to the
No, the federal government will give some money to the individual cities will apply for funding from the federal government. So they'll get some funding from the federal government. They may have to wait for that for January 1st. I know why July 1st, that's the end of the fiscal year for everybody who is any state agency. June 30th is the last day. So, but why they wait? I think the video said November, right? They start to have conversations about it, but
Yeah.
they may have to wait. They may have to wait for some funding to come in to do a full allocation.
I told him to talk to Joshua.
Okay.
I'm sending everybody upstairs. All right. So we talked about the legislative process. It's a lot. This is dense information, but trust me, this is all information that you're going to be thankful to have. Talked about the budget cycle. Now we're going to talk about what policy is, right? We talked about bills, what laws are. And what is policy? You can give me a definition without looking at the slide. What is policy? We're making eye contact, so we're having a moment. Or not. Don't leave me out to this side of the room. Let's go
A
on.
policy is the norms for a contract.
Yeah, right? The norms, established, adopted, agreements, right? Things that we abide by, rules, laws, right?
And the basis for laws.
Yeah, regulations, right?
Policies that we always listen about is the insurance policy.
Insurance policy, right? It's different than policy. As a student, what are some policies on campus? Times may have changed since I've been here, but what are some of the rules on campus?
No alcohol.
No alcohol, that's a policy.
Civil tolerance.
Civil tolerance. Tell me more about that.
Civil tolerance, like no disrespect should be brought into this community.
Yeah, I do that. Yeah. That's right. What else? What's another policy on campus?
Yeah, plagiarism.
No plagiarism.
Plagiarism.
That's right. What else? Huh? Attendance is a policy, right? You have to adhere. So policies are a set of guidelines, right? You have to adhere to. By definition, or the definition that I decided we're going to adopt, is a plan, expectation, or course of action adopted by a group of people, institution, or government with the intent of influencing and determining decisions, procedures, and behavior. What that means is it's something that we have to agree on. And much like laws, policies can change. And if you don't like something, change it, right? Did you have a question or you agree?
Yes.
Oh,
What is the difference between policy and law?
the difference between a policy and a law. Policy is like a rule, right?
Would it be
It's-
that all laws are policy, but not all
Not all
policies
policies
are
are laws, right, exactly. Thank you for that. She said.
Principle, right?
Huh?
Principle?
Principles?
Yes, like having principle.
Yeah.
Yes, and
On a level, like, principle, you apply it to you or from people that are around you.
And policies can be guided by principles, right? In theory, we want some of our laws to be guided by principles. That's not always the case.
The law is like the higher level.
Yes, so a law is higher level, but both can be changed, right? It's just that the procedure, the process by which they're changed is completely different. But you're right, all laws are policies. I can't even-
All laws are policies, not all policies are laws.
Are laws. There we go. Policy comes from many different levels, federal, state, city, district level, school level. Policies are expressions of our social and cultural values. Policy is all around us all of the time, like Santa Claus. Don't laugh. I'm sleep deprived. How do we distinguish policy from advocacy? Because we often use them interchangeably. I should have put it on the slide, just somebody call it out. Yeah.
The policy is related to the government, and we created them, but advocacy is the opposite, which is out away from the government, and it has influence towards someone.
Say more, say more.
If I wanted to elaborate, I don't have any other information to say.
But yeah, so policy is within government, policy making, right? And advocacy is outside government influence. So you all can be advocates in favor or against a certain policy, but you all may not be policy makers. Does that make sense? Again with the slide, Chase. All right. So this is a policy making cycle, right? Not as pretty as the other ones, but this is essentially the cycle by which policy is created. The first stage is problem identification, and that takes place at a ground, ideally, at a grassroots level, right? With community input. What are the issues that you're facing? If I'm here and if I'm one of the administrators on this campus, I want to talk to you all. What are the issues affecting you? What are the things that you care about? What are the problems we're facing, right? Yes, all that good stuff, right? All of these things, these are issues, right? And so I set an agenda. I take all of the things that you've mentioned and I create a grocery list of issues. It's called an agenda. Now we're going to do policy research. I'm going to dig deeper into these issues that you've named and pull up with some stats, build an argument, build a case, and really understand how it's affecting the student body. Policy options and strategies. Has this been done before? Where has it been done? Is there a precedent? Are there ways I can implement this? Where can I learn from? Policy negotiation. The president's not trying to have my policy agenda, right? So now I have to have a conversation. And he says I have to be civil, so I can't. So right? And then there's policy formulation. Once we've negotiated, now I need to come up with a draft or a proposal with all things in mind. Policy organization is what you can't see. And that is what we compile our proposals. Then there's policy implementation. We've agreed on something, we've enacted it. Let's make sure that this plays out. So I said that we want a social worker in each school campus, right? That's what you wanted. Is this even feasible? Hold on, let's go back. Do we have money for this? And enforcement. Who's gonna check me, boo? Who's gonna know if I even did it, right? Policy accountability. Who are the people who are ensuring that I did my job? Policy evaluation. What are the outcomes? Did we reach the goals that we set out by instituting these policies? If so, yay for us. Let's build on it. If not, we need to start building all over again. Maybe, ideally. But what happens, a lot of times things don't work and they just stay the same way because that's the way that it's always been done. And that is true of our government, that's true of our institutions where we are living with old policies that are just there because no one's taking the time to revisit them. And it takes a lot of effort and money and time. Whose voices do you think tend to be heard the most at each part of the process and why? Let's go back. Right here, at this part of the process, who do you think we listen to the most? Uh-huh. Who else? Huh? The option?
The community